Hi, I'm Becky Parker Geist. I'm the host of the Audiobook Connection podcast, Behind the Scenes with the Creative Teams. I'm also president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association and the CEO of Pro Audio Voices, providing audiobook production, marketing, and podcasting services. And I am so excited to have with me today Bethel Barr. Bethel is the author of Crystal Corridor of Light. This is an audiobook that I had the privilege and thorough enjoyment of narrating. So, Bethel, thank you so much and welcome.
Well, thank you, Becky. I appreciate we're, that we're doing this and that I have a chance to have this interview. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, getting, learning more and about you and your writing process and also, some of the information and messages that you've brought forth in your book. So, if it's okay, I would love to hear just a little bit more about the writing itself. So, I know, like in the book, we learn we learn a little bit about how you ended up writing a book. But I'd love to dive just a little deeper, if we could, into that process, what that was like for you, and can you tell us like how it got started and what that process of writing this book was like for you?
Well, because I never in this lifetime consciously aspired to write a book, it was shocking to me to learn that that was what I had agreed to do before I came here.
Mhm.
Um, I always liked and enjoyed writing. I've written many blogs, but writing a book was different. And I thought of many topics, and biography was one of them. But I thought, oh no, I'm not doing that. And because that was the hardest part. That putting myself, opening my heart
Mhm.
and telling the public all my feelings and the emotions that came
Yeah.
along a spiritual path, but I couldn't do it without being honest. I couldn't write the book without that
Yeah.
honesty. So I did. I came from the heart.
Yeah.
It
And
was very difficult in lots of ways, and because of that reluctance, I dragged my feet quite a bit at the beginning, and I resisted writing it
Mhm.
because it was because it meant I needed to put myself out there to everyone, and my parents and my own my parents' death, both of them, and that's in the book,
Yeah.
and my own path has been such an amazing, incredible path that it's so um, special to me.
Right.
So to put that in a book was difficult, and I did resist. And finally, I just realized, you know what, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Talking to myself, I need to do this. So I just did it, and but it took quite a while for me to um, to reach that point where I could come from the heart
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's
be
a
truthful.
Yeah, and what you bring up is so powerful, I think, because w- we I mean, I come from the training in acting, and this is exactly what we also do as actors, is make ourselves vulnerable. And I haven't always thought about the writing process as much in that light, but what you're saying is so true, is that really that is a process of opening ourselves up, which can be scary, um, in this world that feels sometimes so judgmental about, who we are or what we think or what we do.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, because that takes strength and it takes courage to be able to do that. And what a beautiful message you've brought forth in this book. So many messages. Um, I just think, I think the more the more beings that are, that have the courage to bring forth and share with the rest of the world what what these messages is going to help us all. Um, so one of the things that really stood out to me was how you expressed about how sometimes when we share the truth of our experiences, and this is that becoming vulnerable, right? That others judge us.
Yes.
And your decision to share these experiences in that light, I think is just such an expression, a beautiful expression of trust and of love. And I'd love to hear more, if you have more to share about that decision to write and to publish in the face of that.
I just I'm just starting to do some videos that are replacing my blogs on my website, and the first one I did was labeled "Are You a Warrior of Light?"
Mm,
And um, it was the very first one I've ever done, and it's not great, but it's not bad. But the
mhm, mhm.
message is in there,
Yeah.
and that's what we have to do in order to carry on, no matter what happens, and no matter what is we're faced with. And I have committed my life to this path, and that hasn't been easy, but nobody said it would be easy.
Right.
There's many souls on this planet that have a much more difficult path than I chose. But as far as the judgmental part, that never really bothered me very much,
Mhm.
because um, there's a there's a brief chapter in my book called "The Call of the Soul," and when an aspirant or a disciple follows that call and commits themselves to that path, it you begin you when you start learning the truth
Yeah.
of what existence here is all about, then it's like you know too much, you can't go back,
Right.
because going back is not an option. Going forward is the only way we can move, and I've just dedicated and committed to this path. And the importance of what's contained within that book supersedes my feelings. It superseded my feelings of lack of confidence in that I could even do it,
Yeah.
and it superseded the judgment that I might attract,
Yeah.
because that doesn't matter to me. And a wise little person said to me one time, and I put this in my book: "What other people think of me is none of my business. That's their world." So
Mhm.
everyone has their own level that they operate on,
Right.
and if we all would just accept each other
Yes.
and each other's path, and where everyone is on their path, it would be it would be helpful.
It would,
But
wouldn't it? Yeah.
the
Yeah.
judgment never really bothered me.
Yeah. That's great. And what a gift then for all those people who are really eager for this kind of information. It was so exciting when in reading about the when you first started to find your people, so first finding your tribe, the people that have more of an awareness and are eager and ready for that light and that truth. What a I I just remember it was like it brought tears to my eyes because I was like, "Oh, yes." It's in some ways, we think about when in the publishing world, we think about like finding our audience. It's it was similar to that, but a little bit more like finding your family, you know?
There are so many souls who are looking for answers
Yeah,
and they don't know where to look.
yeah,
I didn't. I just kept looking. And 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 then everything just kind of fell into place and the answers came. The more I moved forward, the more I learned and life finally made sense to me. It never did before I started this path, but there's a lot of people that are starting to question the status quo, starting to say, why is our world in such a mess?
mhm,
And it's simply because we put ourselves ahead of others, and it's lack of acceptance of others, and it's lack of understanding of others, and and when an aspirant, a disciple, a seeker, whatever you want to call us, reaches for spirit, reaches and makes that connection with the higher dimensions, that's where the answers are. And
mm,
that's where our real power is, in
yeah,
making that connection. And it's just an amazing journey once that happens. And we begin to learn the truth of what is really going on.
yeah. Ah, beautiful, beautiful. In your book, you share some channeled messages. And I just would love it if you would share a little bit about your experiences in channeling, what that is like, either what it feels like or what that experience is like. I don't know if that's something that can be described, but I think
Yeah,
people would
yes,
be
it
really
can.
interested. I know I would be.
I I always had this urge where I wanted to channel. I wanted to bring in those incredible messages
Yeah.
of love and hope and encouragement. And I always felt inadequate. I thought, how am I supposed to do this? And and once I realized to quit expecting it to happen in a certain way, it just happened. And that's what happens. We have expectations about how something is going to happen. And then that's kind of a blockage. Um, and when we just allow,
Hmm.
then it's much easier when we're willing and we just say, okay, and that's what I did. You know what? I want to do this. But the messages came to me in a variety of ways, not just one way. Like I would have clairaudience. I would hear a voice right beside me, like 3 feet from me, and it was always on the right side.
Huh.
It was like somebody was standing there, and
Wow.
I looked, nobody was there, but I heard this voice, and usually those messages were very short, like a sentence, and then I would get um, words just pop into my head, and spirit will give us what we need the way we would best understand it.
Mm,
And I did a lot of meditation. I still do, not as much as I did, but that was my main avenue, was because in meditation we relax, open ourselves up, and allow more
right.
easily. I'm also a dedicated walker, and I walk every day. And as I'm walking along, thoughts will randomly come into my head. And pretty soon I realize those thoughts are given to me for a reason. So then my mind starts to head in a specific direction. And pretty soon I received a knowing. I just know the answer to something that I've been pondering. And then in meditation, when I channeled the Mother Goddess, that was most of it was in meditation. And I have a little recorder, not very big, um, and I started recording as the because I thought this is great.
Yeah.
This is special.
Yeah.
So I started recording it, and then I thought it was finished. So I finished my meditation, went for a walk, but something told me to take my recorder.
Mm.
So I took my little recorder, put it in my pocket, and I was almost finished my walk when I thought, well, I guess I made a mistake. I guess there's no more coming through. And then it started to come in again. So I took the recorder in my pocket and I recorded out there on my walk. And so that was the Mother Goddess. Archangel Michael's message is it's very short, and it's in my book right after the introduction. And that one is also very special to me. I received that in meditation. And I think of course, it's told to us by an archangel, so of course it's beautiful. But I just love
Mm.
the way Archangel Michael put those words together to give to me. It was a huge gift, and I
Yeah.
wanted to share it. And some of them I channeled during some of my classes because I for 10 years or more I hosted classes on Meetup,
Hmm.
and it mostly most I get most of my again I receive most of my information as a knowing,
Hmm.
but it will also come in if I'm hosting a meeting. I will sometimes feel a influx of energy coming in through my crown chakra, and it comes into my body. And especially, it used to happen when we were in the middle of a discussion, like the group, a group discussion. And if spirit was always there. So if they wanted to interject, then I received this huge influx of energy, and that told me there was something they wanted to give to the group.
Hmm.
So then I would I would allow their words to come through. And sometimes like it would come in as energy, and I can't really explain it much better than I just knew what to say.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
And I do some counseling as well, spiritual counseling. I'm not a doctor, this is spiritual
Yeah.
counseling.
Yeah.
And I will receive messages that are important to the person that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And um, one uh, like they will say things in a different way than I do. So I just know, well, that came from them.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought up a couple of really interesting things in the in your description. One was about that feeling of knowing, that and that you recognize that, right? And it seems to me like there are that a part of our work as seekers is to open ourselves and sort of prepare ourselves in a sort of quieting of the chaos and noise of the world in general, so that we can have those moments of clarity around, oh yeah, I know this thing. Or to even, and the other thing that you mentioned was about you would have thoughts. And I was reminded, when I meditate, often as soon as I start meditating, then the clarity of thought is it's just so much clearer. Oh, okay, these are the things. And then I'll like stop and write them down. But that recognizing the thought as a something that we're receiving. I think that so often we have this idea of either we're thinking like we're trying to solve a problem kind of thinking. Like I am intentionally thinking through something, or we're just like at the mercy of whatever is in our field. There's something more you've touched on there. Yeah.
Spirit um, will tell us that we all channel. In fact, um, I believe Sananda, Lord Sananda, Jesus gave me that, and that is in my book. We all channel, we just don't recognize it.
Mm.
Like we channel
Mhm.
love and we channel lots of energies, but we're channeling information when we don't even realize it. We think it's our idea, but we have a team of angels and guides and beings working with us all of the time,
Yeah.
including our high self. There's ascended masters, there's archangels, there's Archangel Michael said one time, call on spirit. Now I don't remember his exact words,
Yeah.
but call on us. And then what he did say that I remember that were his words is, there are many unemployed angels out there. So so call on spirit, and they're just willing and ready to help. We just have to make the effort and ask. Sometimes they help us when we don't reach out, but when we do reach out, it makes it a lot better. They can give us more, they can come in more often. We just have to recognize that they're there and allow that connection. It is so incredible. And
Mhm.
once someone actually feels that and knows there's this consciously knows that they have made that connection,
Yeah.
I just want to keep talking to them. I
Right.
chatter with them all the time. It's
Yeah.
quite wonderful.
Ah, it's so beautiful. This brings me right to my next question is what would you like readers to and listeners to take away from these the messages from your book, I guess.
Oh, the book, the book is about assistance. It's about assisting other seekers. That's all it's ever been about. I
Mhm.
didn't, I didn't start it because I wanted to.
Mhm.
I started it because it was I realized that it was part of my mission here. It was part of the work that I do. And so of course, I mean, I wasn't going to say, no, I'm not going to write it. And I just didn't know how to go about it. But um, it's everything I have learned has been so beneficial to me, not only on the path of spirituality, but just in good all round living.
Mm.
And looking at the person in the grocery store and not judging them,
Yeah.
and understanding that maybe they're having a bad day or something. It's helped me in my day-to-day living, accepting and understanding the others and the world around me and why things are the way they are. And that's what's so needed, I think, is that people don't accept others because they don't understand
Yeah.
that we're all one, that we're all here. Everyone's playing a role. Karma has something to do with it. And there's really no good or bad.
Yeah.
And if we hadn't, if humanity hadn't suffered oppression over the eons, we wouldn't have had a chance to grow, because you can't really make a lot of movement in forward in evolution if everything's nice all the time.
Right.
It's only
Mhm.
through adversity that we learn to overcome
Mhm. Yeah.
situations and the negative energies.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So it's all about helping. It's all about helping others.
Yeah.
It's not about anything else.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Uh let's chat just a little bit about the audiobook and its specifically and the process. I know that when we first talked, you were thinking that you might need to record it yourself, and then we explored having me narrate it. So, can you tell me a little bit about that decision?
I would love to. Um, I would just love to tell the world what a wonderful narrator you are, Becky.
Thank you.
And the reason I wanted to do it myself was because those are my words, and I put them on paper. I wrote them, and of course some of it is spirit, from spirit as well.
Yeah.
Because as I would write, I would channel often. But because it was my work, I thought there was nobody else that could bring it across to the public like I could.
Hmm.
And then I realized that you're the professional in that area,
Hmm.
not me. And I just felt like you were the one that needed to do it. And there was my knowing again, I guess. And when the first time when I listened to the audio version after you sent it to me, it was very emotional. And I didn't even really realize until then how good you were at what you do.
Thank you.
And as far as the rest, the interaction that I've had with your company, Pro Audio Voices, has been a very positive experience. And I would happily recommend your company to anyone because I've been very satisfied. When I chose your company, I had a few other choices,
Hmm.
but I followed my knowing. I followed my intuition, my instinct. I didn't know any of you.
Hmm.
I just chose you because that's what felt right.
Yeah.
And I haven't been sorry.
Yeah.
So
Great.
um, I guess I can't really add to that. Um, it's been a very positive experience.
Great. Thank you.
And
That's
I'm
wonderful.
glad that you narrated it instead of me.
Well, I'm glad that I got to narrate it because I love the material and just it, when I am narrating an author's book, it's like I get to um, step inside your shoes for a little bit. I get to be, it's a very intimate for me as a narrator, uh, that relationship with the material because it is, the oneness of it all becomes very real for me. The oneness of you with the words and the words with me and me with you, all of it.
I was to be truthful, I was a bit surprised at how good you were and how you did just that, how you got inside of my head sort of,
Hmm.
or my heart, whatever, and you were able to bring the message across, and it felt to me like you were coming from the heart.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was mildly surprised but pleased.
Great.
You
Thank
did
you.
a good job, and I'm very happy I entrusted my special um, work to you, um,
Great. Thank
because
you.
it is very dear to my heart.
Yeah. Let's let our listeners know how they can learn more about you and your stories. What is the website that they should visit?
The website is Crystal Corridor of Light, um, but I've had for the actual uh, name of it. It's Crystal Corridor
Crystal
Light.com.
Corridor Light.
Yeah,
Very
there's
good.
no of in it.
Mhm.
And there's on there on that website is all the uh, links to the books.
Great.
Uh,
Great.
and then I will be putting the audio one on as well when I get that from the publisher. So
Great. Great. Very good. Well, Bethel, I want to thank you so much for this time with me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. This again is Bethel Barr, author of Crystal Corridor of Light. Thanks, Bethel.
thank you, Becky.
All right. And then just here, I'm going to